Nobody went off to war to earn medals or die. They went because their country asked them to.
And this Veterans Day, of course, we honor all of our local heroes who have and continue to serve our country.
That's right. A local veteran, Gary McKitty, was killed in combat 53 years ago while fighting in the Vietnam War. And now state leaders and his family are working to get him the military's highest honor. Lydia Bice spoke with his family today. What did they tell you about his life and legacy?
So Sergeant Gary McKitty is a Miamisburg native, now known for his bravery and courage during the Vietnam War when he saved the life of Sergeant James Skaggs during a helicopter crash in Cambodia. After pulling Skaggs to safety, he then returned to the helicopter to save the pilot when the helicopter's fuel tank exploded and both the pilot and McKitty were killed. After his death, McKitty was honored with numerous different medals, including the Silver Star, Bronze Star Medal, and more. For the last 53 years, McKitty's family has been working to get him the Medal of Honor after it was promised to them by President Nixon.
So what are state leaders doing now to help out in this process?
Well, Senators J.D. Vance and Sherrod Brown are attempting to pass legislation that would waive the statutory limit currently preventing the president from granting Sergeant McKitty the Medal of Honor.
Once Gary receives the Medal of Honor, it's just not about him. It's reminding everybody that these stories are real and families are carrying the burden through their whole life of losing a loved one due to this type of situation.
Now, if you head to historicalmiamisburg.org, which you see here, and click on the Sergeant Gary Lee McKitty tab, you can find a short letter here at the bottom that you can print off and send to your local representative, asking them to assist in getting this hero the military's highest honor. Back to you.
Lydia, thank you. And cities and towns across the country are now honoring veterans ahead of tomorrow's federal holiday. Tributes range from lively parades to solemn ceremonies. The holiday was originally known as Armistice Day, marking the end of World War I. It wasn't until 1954 that President Eisenhower signed a bill that made November 11th Veterans Day. The National Veterans Day ceremony is held on that date each year at Arlington National Cemetery.
President Joe Biden marking Veterans Day with new actions to protect vets. He's expected to make all World War II vets eligible for no-cost health care under the Department of Veteran Affairs, as well as expanded coverage for costs associated with Parkinson's disease. Now, the Biden administration is also unveiling new steps to protect veterans and their families from fraud scams. According to a fact sheet, last year, veterans, military personnel, and veteran families reported 93,000 fraud complaints that cost them more than $414 million.
The University of Dayton now honoring veterans through prayer. The Mass honored all U.S. military veterans, including those who graduated from UD.
As we listen to our veterans' experiences and stories, we find a host of multifaceted reasons why their devoted service to our country is so inspirational and deserving of our respect.
UD's chapel holds masses Monday through Friday and then 4 times on Sunday. And several Veterans Day events taking place across the Miami Valley tomorrow. So here's a list of just a few of them. The Miami Valley Military History Museum in Fairborn is hosting its 6th annual Veterans Day open house. And a ceremony will be held for veterans at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park at 11 o'clock. And then the Dayton VA Medical Center will hold its 2nd annual parade also at 11 in the morning.
3 games. That's the suspension for University of Michigan's head football coach Jim Harbaugh. It's all in connection to the university's alleged role in a sign stealing scheme. Matt Digby here now to break down how we got to this point. Matt?
Yeah, it really is a very polarizing punishment. Many saying, not enough. Many saying it was not a necessary punishment to begin with. The violation of sportsmanship policy for conducting an impermissible in-scouting operation for multiple years, resulting in an unfair competitive advantage. That was the official language that Michigan allegedly committed as a result of the sign stealing scam. And as a penalty, sign stealing scheme, I should say, as a penalty, head coach Jim Harbaugh suspended from games for the rest of the regular season. Tomorrow at Penn State, next week against Maryland, and the game against Ohio State on November 25th. Now, Harbaugh is allowed to attend practices and other team activities throughout the week, just not the games themselves. But the University of Michigan has put out this statement of its own, calling the decision hasty and disregarding the conference's own handbook, and that it will seek a court order to prevent the disciplinary action from going into effect. And the university has already taken those steps in trying to get an order granted from a judge. If the order is granted, the suspension would be delayed until the legal battle is over. However, if it stands, Michigan would have to wait to get Harbaugh back, potentially for the Big Ten championship game or a potential bowl game. Back to you.
Matt, thanks, and we'll continue to follow that story. As we learn anything new, we'll alert you on air and online at Dayton247now.com.
Moving on to weather tonight. It was a little chilly out there. Definitely need a jacket. But are we going to need one for the rest of the weekend, you think?
I would say, especially tomorrow. It's going to be a little cool, but it'll be nice. Just cooler than we have been. Today we got into the 60s. Tomorrow we'll stay in the 50s, and we'll stay actually in the 40s for most of the day. Got some cooler air sliding its way in briefly. We're in the 40s and 30s right now, 36 in Urbana, 36 Wapakoneta, 37 in Richmond. We got 41 in Springboro, so a little chilly out there this evening. All of us colder right now compared to where we were this time yesterday. 7 degrees colder in Wapakoneta, 8 degrees colder in Dayton. Rest of the evening, temperatures are going to be falling to around freezing. I do think we could see some frost around as our winds start to calm a bit, and with those mostly clear skies, we could see some frost by early tomorrow morning. But we got to warm up on the way by next week, so I'll have more on that coming up here in just a bit.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in India today as he attended the 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue Diplomatic Summit between the two countries. Now, on his mind, however, remains how he can best help those impacted by the conflict between Israel and Hamas.
This is a process, and it's not always flipping a light switch, but we have seen progress. We just need to see more of it, and we need to maximize every effort to prevent Palestinian deaths and to advance the humanitarian assistance that's getting to them.
Now, Blinken says the U.S. appreciates the pauses that have occurred in Gaza. He says those steps will help save lives and will enable more assistance to get to Palestinians in need. However, Blinken is condemning the death toll in Gaza, even with the 4-hour military pause yesterday.
There are other steps that we've discussed with Israel that I discussed a week ago. I'm not going to detail them here. I can simply say that there is more that can and should be done to minimize harm to Palestinian civilians.
Now, Blinken has not condemned the Israeli government for its offensive, instead offering support to the nation's right to defend itself. Blinken also reiterated the U.S. is relentless in its efforts to get hostages home.
Police are now investigating 2 instances of anti-Semitism near The Ohio State University. Early this morning, 2 students were assaulted just off campus after being asked if they were Jewish. The alleged victims were taken to the hospital where they were treated and released. Now many across campus are reacting.
Asking someone if they're Jewish and punching them because of it, it's just like, it's not human at all, and I don't even have words to describe how I feel about it.
It is a scary time at Ohio State University, and that needs to change.
Now, earlier the day before, 2 women allegedly vandalized Israeli flags in the lobby of OSU's Hillel Wexner Jewish Student Center. The university now pursuing all action possible against anyone committing hate crimes on or near campus. The governor releasing the statement on the incident saying, quote, "We will not tolerate hate and violence on our campuses or anywhere in Ohio. These are despicable acts, and as governor, I will ensure that the state continues our efforts to protect all Ohio students."
Daytonians Against War Now, or DAWN, holding a peace rally in Courthouse Square this afternoon. The group, along with the Islamic Council of Dayton, are calling for a ceasefire and a stop to that war now.
We are here to show support and solidarity to the Palestinian people. What is happening there is terrible. As Muslim Americans and also as human beings, condemn any kind of killing of civilians, regardless of religion.
Now, he says as long as the war continues, they'll keep standing up against it because it's all they can physically do.
The city of West Carrollton announcing today that it will be removing a water tower starting on November 15th. The decommissioned 100,000-gallon tower was built in the 1930s at Central Avenue and Elm Street. This has been planned since earlier this year. Now, city officials say it's not the result of a semi-truck that crashed into it earlier this week, you might remember. The water tower drop will take place next Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Streets around it will be closed from approximately 9 a.m. till 3 p.m.
Beginning Monday, ODOT is making some big changes to State Route 41 in Clark County near the area of a deadly school bus crash. Crews will be installing rumble strips from Northampton Corporation limits and then continue onto Miller Road. Many asked for that change because of the school bus crash back in August when 23 kids were hurt and 1 died. The driver of the SUV who police say caused the crash, Romanio Joseph, remains behind bars.
Some state lawmakers say they plan to fight back. This just days after Ohioans voted to enshrine abortion into the state's constitution. Lawmakers explained their plan to work around the vote.
And a solar eclipse will bring thousands to Wapakoneta next year. What city leaders are doing to make sure they're prepared.
Plus, I'm tracking our weekend forecast. I'll let you know if we warm up anymore. That's coming up. Here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Well, we are now just 6 months away from you being able to view a total solar eclipse right here in the Miami Valley. Wapakoneta is already buzzing with excitement for the April 8th viewing. The city is already expecting a busy weekend. City officials say hotels, they're already fully booked. Wapakoneta expecting 40 to 100,000 visitors, and businesses, they are getting ready.
The restaurants are in full speed ahead. Food trucks will be coming here.
Safety, also a big priority for the city, as county sheriffs and even the Ohio National Guard will be helping out during the festivities. This is also going to have a big economic boost for the city, with officials expecting to see around $50 million coming in during the weekend viewing.
And I hope sky conditions are exactly how they are currently, because we have a mostly clear sky and we are going to see a lot of sunshine for this weekend as well. Mostly clear conditions across the Miami Valley right now. We do have some clouds streaming through tomorrow night, but overall high pressure is going to keep things nice and quiet through this weekend. Check out how calm we are through a lot of the Midwest, northern plains, and even the Northeast. Other than a couple of snow flurries far up Northeast, it's sitting pretty calm. So here's a look at what we're expecting tonight. Lows dropping into the lower 30s, upper 20s. Heading into our Saturday, back up to around 50 degrees. So it is going to be cooler, about 10 degrees cooler than we were today. By Sunday, we do have some clouds streaming through, mainly tomorrow night into our early Sunday morning. So those head out by Sunday afternoon, and then we start our warming trend. Low to mid 50s by Sunday afternoon. We warm up even more. After that, I'll have more coming up in a bit.
Tonight, some GOP members of Ohio's House are planning to fight Ohio's passage of Issue 1. On Tuesday, Ohioans voted to enshrine abortion and reproductive rights into the state's constitution. Now, in a news release, however, multiple Republicans say they'll consider removing authority from the judiciary branch to interpret the measure. This would allow state lawmakers to consider any changes to existing abortion laws. In fact, Representative Bill Dean of Xenia is one of those lawmakers named in the release. In it, he writes, quote, Issue 1 doesn't repeal a single Ohio law. In fact, it doesn't even mention one. The amendment's language is dangerously vague and unconstrained and can be weaponized to attack parental rights or defend rapists, pedophiles, and human traffickers. Abortion passed in the state by a 57 to 43% margin. Legislatures say they'll introduce several bills in the coming weeks to address this. Now, the specifics of those bills, however, have not been released. And Americans saw a clear winner on Wednesday night's third GOP presidential debate, former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley. According to a 538 Washington Post Ipsos poll of potential Republican primary and caucus voters, 34% of debate viewers thought Haley performed the best. 23% say Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did the best, and 14% say tech entrepreneur and Cincinnati native Vivek Ramaswamy won. Still, though, former President Trump remains the party's frontrunner by a solid margin. And another new poll shows President Biden trailing former President Trump in multiple crucial swing states in a hypothetical rematch. The Morning Consult Bloomberg News poll has Trump ahead in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and Wisconsin. Trump and Biden are tied in Michigan. This after a New York Times Siena College poll released this past weekend showed a similar trend. Biden casted doubt on that first poll to reporters yesterday.
You don't believe you're trailing in battleground states?
No, I don't.
A majority of Democrats are behind Biden, but some say the party has suggested a younger candidate could improve their odds of holding onto the White House in 2024. For now, former President Trump will still go on trial in May on charges of mishandling classified documents, but the judge overseeing the case says she will push back a few deadlines related to evidence so that Trump's legal team has more time to review it. The trial could be pushed back further next year if needed. Trump is trying to get it pushed back past the November 2024 presidential election. He, of course, denies any wrongdoing.
All right, here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam over downtown Dayton tonight. Well, even just since 10 o'clock over on Fox, it has dropped.
Yeah.
Feels like considerably. I know it hasn't, but it's cold.
Yeah, it's gotten colder and got a little bit of a breeze, which is making it feel colder out here right now.
A little bit, so we'll get through it quick.
Yeah, it's pretty chilly. It's going to be colder tonight compared to these past several nights. So past couple of nights, it has been fairly mild. Maybe you could hang out on the patio. It would be a brief patio hangout this evening as it's pretty chilly. Only 50 degrees tomorrow. So it is cool, but we have sunshine. Just a chilly weekend overall. But notice by next week, back into the lower 60s. We've got a warming trend for us. Not just for us, but a lot of the U.S. going to be seeing above normal temperatures through the middle to late next week. It's not until late next week, Friday time frame, we also get some rain back in the picture. But overall, we're going to enjoy a warmer than normal temperature trend with highs back in the 60s. So I'll have a look at our 7-day with the latest on that coming up.
A deal between actors in Hollywood and the studios jumping through yet another hurdle tonight. The next steps needed to put an end to the 4-month strike. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Board members from Hollywood's Actors Union voted to approve the deal with studios that ended their several-month-long strike. Now, the agreement was approved with 86% of the vote. Duncan Crabtree Ireland is the National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator for the union. He says the contract includes $1 billion in new wages and benefit plan funding, as well as guardrails for artificial intelligence.
This victory is everyone's victory. In this age of artificial intelligence technology potentially changing the entertainment landscape, protections for performers mean the preservation of tens of thousands of jobs.
Now, the strike held back the industry for nearly 4 months. The 3-year contract agreement will next need to be ratified by union members before they can take effect.
CICSA providing a low-cost community veterinary clinic for Kettering pet owners earlier today for just $20. The organization's vets and volunteers from Sinclair Community College and OSU gave dogs and cats a nose-to-tail assessment, shots, a microchip, and more. More than 100 pet owners came out for this today.
We've had a really great response from the community. A lot of people have identified this as a need that they have. Veterinary care isn't cheap, unfortunately, and so anything that we can do to provide services so that these guys can come out and get that preventative care ends up being helpful in the long run.
Slots filled up pretty quickly because it was the last of the year. They do this every month, but CICSA is always open in Washington Township to provide information, resources, medical care, and any pet needs, all income based on a sliding fee.
The high school football playoffs, they are in round 3 tonight. We'll update you on who's moving on across the Miami Valley.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The Dayton 24/7 Now News app, brought to you by the Jeffschmidt Auto Group.
Good evening, I'm Matt Digby with a look at sports. Round 3 of the Ohio High School Football Playoffs. 18 teams from the Miami Valley reaching the regional semifinals, all looking to extend their seasons another week. We'll start at Welcome Stadium, the site for Troy and Withrow in Division II Region 8. Tigers have the ball first. Demetrius Howard up the middle for a gain near midfield. But watch closely, his knee never hits the ground, so the play continues. Howard able to gain a couple more yards out of that play. However, the opening drive ends in a punt. Troy's first drive, Dakota Manson trying to find an angle at the far sideline. He gets close, but he is stopped short of the line to gain, so the Trojans would have to punt. And this punt is going to be fielded by Terrion Nichols, who quickly heads to his right, weaving in and around defenders, and he is gone for a punt return touchdown. Withrow is on the board first. They lead 7-0. Troy is unable to answer, so the Tigers will have a chance to add to their lead. Luke Dunn finding Quentin Simmons for the touchdown, and Withrow increasing the lead to 14-0. On Troy's ensuing drive, a handoff to Manson, who gets a couple of blocks up the right side for a positive gain. However, Troy would have to punt again, and in the second quarter, Withrow driving in the red zone. Dunn connects with Chris Henry Jr. for the touchdown. Trojans trim the deficit after halftime, but Withrow goes on to win 42-14 the final. Troy finishes the season 11-2. Over in Centerville, Wayne